I've often travelled along Close and Sandhill, wondering what it was like in days gone by. It's a single route along the River Tyne. Let's look at the past and present along this familiar street. First, the names. Sandhill describes the mound of accumulated dirt at the foot of the Lortburn. That river now runs underground. Close is narrow and next to the river. The swing bridge occupies the site of the medieval arched crossing, forming the boundary between Sandhill and Close. Large ships could go no further upstream, making Close a favoured spot for wealthy merchants' houses. They were near the action, yet isolated from the noisy throng and rude mechanicals. We know the age of the street by tree rings, putting timbers at around 1400. A 1430 deed shows Roger Thornton owning this range, now the House of Tides restaurant. The Clavering family owned it later on. John Clavering was twice town mayor. It became a grain warehouse by the 19th century. The building has changed over the years. That facade is recent. It appears to be 2 buildings now, but old plans show 3. Separated by the long stairs, one of several leading down to the steep river bank, is the Cooperage. This started life as a dwelling for Henry Anderson in the mid-16th century, replacing an earlier building. John Arthur converted it into commercial premises in 1863. He made barrels, a business that continued until 1973. We dodged the sloping floors and leaning walls to enjoy a popular drinking haunt here until 2008. Many have lamented its decay since, with the empty skeleton creaking with time. As it's Grade 2 listed, the owners seem to be taking small steps to avoid collapse. In 1754, a girl came into the world in the house behind me. The Surtees family rented rooms from Snow Clayton, a merchant. Bessie was one of the 6 survivors of 12 children. Albone, Bessie's father, was a wealthy banker who had fine plans for his eldest daughter, hoping for a convenient marriage into another moneyed family. Sir Walter Calverley Blackett, 3 times mayor, was a favoured suitor. Bessie was having none of it. You can imagine Albone's anger when Bessie took up with the local trader's son, John Scott. Love blossomed between the two, whilst parental prohibitions flew around the house. Matters came to a head one November night in 1772, when John brought a ladder to the window up there for 18-year-old Bessie to climb out and join him on horseback in an escape to freedom. They fled up the nearby Dogleap stairs to Castlegarth, then onward to the high road to Scotland. They reached Blackshields near Fala, where the Reverend John Buchanan married them. They returned to Newcastle, where Bessie was reconciled with her parents, but she never forgot the events of that fateful night. The couple held a blessing in St Nicholas Church the following January. John Scott rose to become a qualified lawyer, Member of Parliament, Solicitor General, Attorney General, and then Lord Chancellor of England. King George IV rewarded Scott siding with him against his estranged wife in a squabble, as well as being opposed to Roman Catholics having political and social rights. The king bestowed the title Viscount Encombe and Earl of Eldon on the by then Sir John Scott in 1821. Eldon wanted to keep Britain anchored to the values of the glorious revolution of 1688. He opposed the Great Reform Act. MPs should be appointed by wealth and patronage, not votes. This put him amongst the Tories of the day, although he always described himself as a parliamentary Whig. Bessie died in 1831, aged 77. Eldon died 7 years later at the age of 87. They had 2 sons and 2 daughters living beyond childhood. This 17th century timber-framed merchant's house stands 5 stories high, with the ground floor shops supporting living accommodation above. Timber post and rail forms the frame of the building, with each floor slightly overlapping the one below. Unlike similar buildings of its age, the frame hides behind a plastered facade sporting Doric pilasters and curved brackets at window level. Most merchants moved away during the late 18th century, leaving these buildings as low-value tenements. The Surtees house fell into dilapidation until John Clayton purchased it along with Millbank House in 1880. Viscount Gort took it over in 1931, along with numbers 41 and 44 Sandhill. Gort spent 6 years restoring it. He rescued materials and pieces from stately homes being demolished. Tyne and Wear County Council purchased the building in 1978, entrusting the Napa-Colleton Partnership with further restoration. The City Council took ownership when the Tories abolished Tyne and Wear Council. English Heritage has leased the building for its area office since 1989. Several other preserved properties stand along Sandhill, but none is so illustrious as Bessie Surtees' house. The Quayside Bar, a Wetherspoon house, is the only remaining 16th century Tyneside merchant's dwelling with a riverside wharf. For many years it was Dove's warehouse. This timber-framed building is dressed in a mixture of sandstone, brick and ashlar. Modern pantile and Welsh slate forms the roof. It is Grade 2 listed. The oldest part, the southeast corner, uses timber felled in 1514. The west corner retains evidence of a loading bay. We can glimpse its former days featuring as a criminal's hideout in the 1961 film Payroll. This modest 1985 infill promenade replaces the wharf. The tipsy patrons no longer need fear falling in the water. Today, Close and Sandhill resound to the leisure industry. Cries of halloo and what-ho fill the barbecue-scented air as revellers consume the witch's brew of fizz and falsehood. Warehouses, once bonded, have given way to plastic modernity and cheap hotels. Whilst some of the old is curated with care, most has been pressed into servicing the headlong hedonism so popular amongst the young and nouveau riche.
Watch some more from Radio Jonaphone. Subscribe to the channel. Enjoy.